Patrick Francie, Miss Jennifer Hunt. Oh my gosh, guys, this is a missing millions not to be missed. I mean, I feel like we're kind of like bringing all the power down on this August 22nd Saturday afternoon. People are either going to be like, "Wow, this is incredible," or "You're interrupting my beer. Please, guys, don't do Facebook Lives on Saturday afternoon." Uh,
Well, it's all about time zones, and it might be a little early over here for an 11:15 a.m. Beer.
Well, it misses Hawaii over there. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So, listen, we have big conversations. Patrick, we've all three of us done this missing millions in various ways, and we often talk about all kinds of interesting topics. The one topic we don't often kind of dig into, especially the three of us, is economics. But today is the day, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the day, and we have some thoughts. We have some opinions. We have some strategic discussions around what the hell is driving this crazy real estate market. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it inflated? Is it real? Is it not real? Who wants to start? Like Patrick, Jennifer? I don't know who wants to start this, but it's a big topic.
Okay, well, I'm going to bite my tongue and say ladies first.
Ooh, wow, awesome. Well, okay, thank you very much. Well, let's ground this in RAIN's research, and we'll start there, as it's always a great place with fundamentals, with the foundations, with understanding what's actually going on there. And RAIN research came out in May, where we created an updated real estate cycle showing where the majority of the major cities are, and even at a provincial overview, just to see how this pandemic is starting, and this is in May, starting to have an impact on the housing market. And what's so important is grounding that in RAIN's economic turmoil formula that starts with economic fundamentals like GDP, jobs, and population, and how there's a time lag of when those go down, the housing properties, the rental market gets impacted, and then the market, the actual real estate market gets impacted over time. And so we predicted we were already beginning in the slump, and everything, all the indicators right now are totally showing that we are entering that slump. It is going to be impacted. And what we're seeing in the headlines right now is frothy freaking markets. It's hot, hot, hot. And that is absolutely one of the indicators that's showing that is indeed where we're going.
Now, folks, for those of you that are watching live, thanks, by the way. Like and share this video. But Jennifer, at our upcoming November Real Estate Investor Summit, we're actually doing a full cycle update, which is really, really exciting. And we're going to have a lot more data by that time. Now, this is interesting, though, Jennifer. You said the words time lag. And Patrick, I think this is important because it seems that everybody forgets this. Everyone seems to intellectually understand it, but everyone forgets it because of the confusion created by the media, the so-called experts, the gurus, the YouTubers, the blah, blah, blah. It's like it just goes out the window, this concept of time lag, doesn't it?
It does, and I think there's a couple things that we have to, shine a light on, which is, to Jennifer's point, all the research shows that, and the data shows that we're entering a slump. Of course, if you're living for today, if you're living for what's happening right now, people are going to look at RAIN and the research that we're doing and go, yeah, they're crazy. That's not like I'm living it and I'm making nothing but money. And, it's all rock and roll and it's all great, great, great. Well, and that's fair. So I get it. But let's talk about what's happening. I have been on this earth long enough to have been through three recessions, at least three, and probably four. And although I've never been through a pandemic and a global recession, that certainly plays, there's certain things about a recession, and even this is that we're starting to see play out. I mean, there's some things that are changing that we have to, that we've never experienced before, and that is the amount of quantitative easing, the amount of money that the feds are printing. And to Jennifer's point, we keep kicking the can down the road is the expression that's being used right now. CERB has just recently been extended, for example, and some more programs that the feds are putting in. There's so many things to talk about that I actually don't even know where to start because this is global. So Jennifer, please go ahead.
Let me help you out there, because what you're getting at is amazing, and I'm going to step it back a little bit and get a foundation there, a little base, because the quantitative easing and the CERB, everything that you just mentioned is very important for us to have that conversation and understand. And actually at our last our last RAIN member meeting, I did a whole segment on what quantitative easing means and how it actually there's like, it's not a question if, it's an is going to affect your real estate. So there's that. But let's step back and even just talk about GDP. And what I'm hearing from you, Patrick, is the economic health. We've seen it plummet. But based on all of those things of, government money, let's just call it government money, your taxpayers, well, anyway, let's not go there. So government money is really buoying the economy right now. And therefore, we are not even experiencing what the true economy is like. So in many ways, we have a fake buoyed economy.
Yeah.
And that's where, if we've got our heads wrapped around that concept, then we don't even know how bad it really is. And yes, I'm going to say that for the number of jobs. And there's another thing that I want to talk about when we get to jobs in a minute, because with this kind of situation, typically what happens is you get money coming into the economy and like all these things, people are wage subsidies, so you don't even get the businesses that need to get kind of reset and a new way of life. You actually get what's called zombie jobs. And because people are just, airlines, for example, they've had this sort of extra runway, pardon the pun, for this extra time with these wage subsidies. So we are seeing zombie jobs.
So Jennifer, it just because there's probably some people listening that have no idea what you're talking about. So let me draw a picture for people. So you have this thing called the economy in the middle of the ocean, and it has a life jacket on that is being buoyed by this quantitative easing. And it's like, this life jacket is not full of foam, it's full of our money. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, well said. Okay. Good analogy. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Now I do want to set context for this before we get, too deep into this, which is this, folks, this does not mean, and Patrick, Jennifer, let me know if you agree, but this does not mean doom and gloom. It means there are interesting times ahead, but it doesn't mean doom and gloom for real estate investors here. It actually means there will be opportunities of a lifetime coming your way if you're prepared. And Patrick, back to your point about kicking the can down the runway, quite frankly, you're right. It has been kicked down the can. The can has been kicked several times. And every time it gets kicked, it's an opportunity for those who haven't prepared to get prepared. But at one point or another, what's going to happen is the shoe will drop. They will have to cleanse the businesses that need to be cleansed. It will have to work its way through the system, and the economy will have to shake this off, which could take years and years and years to be determined. So I just want to make sure that that everyone understands this doesn't mean doom and gloom. In fact, it's quite the opposite, but you have to be prepared, Patrick. That's the biggest thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
I just want to add one thing there, JG, and then we'll go to Patrick, is everything you said 100% accurate, and innovation, like the cleansing the businesses. This is where innovation rises and beautiful opportunities and a new era can manifest itself as well. So over to you, Patrick.
Yeah, I think there's a really important part of all of what you said is that it is going to be painful for some. It's not going to be as painful as others, but of course, these kinds of things do create innovation. I mean, look what RAIN has done. Just as in our world, this example, in my retail businesses in Edmonton, innovation. Stephanie, my wife, innovation, and that's been very, very, very good for us. So it isn't all doom and gloom, but as real estate investors, and we talk about homeowners as well, because, even as a homeowner, people are actually investing. Many of them are, right? If you're a first-time home buyer or you're doing that starter home, you got to think of it as a investment. The thing about being an investor is that what's our job? Our job is to look into the future. We're to look into the future and say, well, what's coming? Because we want to be in front of the wave. We want to see where rents are going to go. We want to see where prices are going to go. And the challenge that we face in all of this is there's so many pieces of the puzzle that have to come together. I can't stress enough that the U.S. is a mess. I mean, there's trillions of dollars going into that economy, but their unemployment is through the roof. We're challenged by exports. We're challenged by imports. I mean, there's supply chain issues. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And I think that we have to consider what's happening in the US, how it's going to affect Canada, and then the US kind of in this little big trade war with China, Canada and China not getting along so good. All of these things are not affecting us today. But when we extrapolate and we look down the road a little bit, that's what we're trying to do. That's really, and nobody has the answers, because what's the big question? Is it going to be inflation? Is it going to be deflation? What's going to happen? The answer is yes. There's going to be both.
And Patrick, I'm so glad that you brought up the impact of the U.S. because you didn't even know this, but at our next RAIN member meeting coming up, I will, in the What's Behind the Curtain segment, be talking about the impact of, because there's a U.S. presidential election coming up in November, and starting to understand the various different policies and platforms of the major runners and what that impact could be for Canada. So there you are. Who knew?
Just this other little influencer called the U.S. election, you know.
Yeah, because we need that.
But on top of it, here's the thing about it: is on top of it, we've got our own federal government. We got Trudeau going through all of the stuff that he's going through. Morneau's out, new finance minister. Nobody, really certain what's there. Cabinet shuffle. You just kind
of glossed over that. Yeah, a new finance minister. We had the same finance minister for over 4 or 5 years, and now in the middle of all this.
Yeah. And then a We Charity scandal. Oh, for the third time he's up in front of the ethics committee. I mean, there's so much going on, and who's putting a plan together for this country now? I don't know where the quote comes from, Jennifer. You're far more well read with that stuff. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. I think that's what we've got really kind of going on here right now. It's kind of the worst of time and the best of times, and it's like a really weird world that we live in. All elevated, of course, by this stimulus that continues to pour in. And so for me, in a lot of different areas, it feels a little bit like musical chairs, because when the music stops, as in when the money quits being printed, what's going to happen? And the impact is quite big. We could spend 2 hours on this call just talking about all of the pieces economically. So here's the opportunities. We look at, you just did took RAIN research and did a whole thing on foreclosures, for example. And what does that mean to real estate investors? What does it mean to homeowners? What does it mean to the real estate market? The potential foreclosures that'll start to come through the system in probably in the next year and a half is my guess. I think if we keep kicking that can down the road, that could be a couple more years before any of this comes to be. I just don't know. Can the feds continue to print money like this?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's, all of these questions are questions that, and I want to kind of just ground us back to what we've been discussing here, which is you have to be asking yourselves the questions. Having the answers is very difficult. No one has the answers. But if you're not asking yourselves these questions and starting to prepare for the various scenarios, then you're going to be caught flat-footed. Then you're going to be caught off guard. Then you're going to be caught in a situation you don't want to be in. And that's the dangerous part of all of this, is to have the awareness to ask the questions and to be surrounded with a community of like-minded individuals that is driving towards this, right? And having that's the backbone of what, the real estate investment network is all about, Jennifer, isn't it?
100%. And that environment for success, because, well, this is a missing millions segment, right? Let me tell you, folks, before I knew what I knew, I missed the millions, because in the 2008, 2009 little by comparison, financial reset, I made mistakes. And we've talked about them before, and I'm happy to share them, but I made mistakes because I didn't know about the real estate cycle. I didn't know about the economic fundamentals, and I didn't know that this was such an important conversation. And so in terms of education and having that awareness, JG, awareness is the perfect thing. Let's just even start there. Why are we talking about the freaking economy when I want to be talking about real estate?
Yeah. And the 2008, the global recession of 2008 was in fact the largest real estate opportunity that most people had in front of them in their lifetime at that time. And what's happening now may be the next largest opportunity they're ever going to see in their lifetime. It all depends on whether they're prepared whether they're not prepared, whether they've been sharpening the saw. Patrick, at our winning in real estate events, we are always talking about this. It is time now to sharpen the saw. It is time now to prepare yourself. You know, you want a head start on this race, because when the shoe drop in the can, they stop kicking the can, and no one's going to know when they're going to do it, but eventually it's going to happen.
Let's leave. Yeah, you're right. And there, because I've said many times, knowledge is the new currency. And to gain that knowledge, you have to be able to ask the right questions and define and figure out what the questions are. But here's some things that as we walk through this particular segment, let's leave some things on the table that we know. When we look at real estate, we're seeing trends that, people moving to smaller centers. They're getting out of the downtown cores. We're seeing that in Vancouver. We're seeing that in Toronto. We're seeing that in Montreal.
Now, can I just jump in though, Patrick? It's very important here, because you, Jennifer, myself, and the Real Estate Investment Network said this in March.
Yes,
that it was
we
going to
did.
start happening.
Thank you.
And now it's hitting the news. Now it's hitting the headlines that this is happening. We called it, 6 months.
7 months ago, we said all of that.
Exactly. So that's critical. That cannot be overstepped. I mean, and it's not too late. It's going to continue to happen. We called it 7 months ago. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and we're seeing. It's not like and there's certain price points. It's more important now to do the research on the very specific geographic regions, cities, and then even pockets within those cities that you're maybe looking at. I mean, as we talk to, we're seeing a shift. For example, I'll use Calgary as one example. I mean, we could go to Ontario and use a number of towns in Ontario that we're starting to see shifts, but actually pockets within those towns where those neighborhoods are starting to shift and change. So it's so important to do this economic research. So I stress again is when, with what we're doing on the research side of it, we're looking into the future. That's ultimately our job, but there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. So we're asking more questions. We don't have as many answers as we'd like. We're making some assumptions because we're connecting the dots, but we don't know. We just know that there's a lot of things happening.
We don't know, but what we do know, and what I'm really excited about, and this is going to come out at our summit in November that we're launching this, is that we actually have the investor solutions and can tell you what you can do and what you should avoid, at least at a ballpark course filter at a given moment in a real estate cycle. And so while there is this sort of research, it is actually very practical and applicable, because there's a how-to tactics table of what to do and what to not do. And well, we've had some fun with that, hey, JG, and it is expanded. We have it's wild, and we're going to be launching that in November. So you will have investor options.
It's expanded. The tactics table is expanded by 400%. It will be released at the summit coming up in November. Folks, those tickets are going to go on sale, by the way, I think this week. You want to get ahead of the curve, that's for sure, because we're having some incredible early bird pricing on them. So get ahead of the curve, get registered for the summit. Patrick, Jennifer, we can go on forever. We're going to have to stop somewhere, and it's going to have to be here. We can go on forever. We're going to have another debate like this at the next Real Estate Investment Network member meeting. So, folks, if you're not members, now's the time to join. Come to one of our winning in real estate events. Come learn about REIN. REIN is Canada's #1 source for real estate research, real estate education, and investing solution. Patrick, Jennifer, thank you very much. Have yourselves an awesome weekend.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, JG.
Thank you.